Hello, this is Minnesota State Senator Glenn Gruenhagen coming to you from the Capitol with another important issue. This week we received from the Democratic state senators here in the state a letter with a lot of concern about President Donald Trump's comments about Somali people and Representative Ilhan Omar, and that we should publicly condemn those comments because they're dehumanizing. In fact, the letter goes on to say, dehumanization is a precursor to violence. And it says it erodes moral inhibitions, it increases aggression, it legitimizes atrocities, it harms mental health, it reinforces social hierarchies, it fuels cycles of marginalization. It goes on to say, we respectfully ask that every Republican publicly repudiate President Trump's statements. Okay? In response, I signed on to a letter with Senator Julia Coleman in response to the Democratic State Senate letter. Basically, she refers to some of the comments Democrats nationally and here in the state have demonized Republicans. For instance, we had one of the state senators on the Senate floor refer to all Republicans as terrorists. Also, Governor Walz called half the country fascists and compared us to the worst mass murderers in history. And he did it with a smile while campaigning right here in Minnesota. President Biden repeatedly labeled his political opponents semi-fascists and insisted that MAGA Republicans represent an existential threat to democracy. We're still waiting for the DFL Minnesota caucus to issue a letter to condemn Governor Walz and President Biden comments that smear tens of millions of Americans. Also, they've made statements calling Republicans Nazis and fascist. You know, Governor Walz was recently referred to by President Trump the R word, and he found that very offensive. In fact, people have driven by his governor mansion and yelled out that word.
I'd never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word.
And his response was that demonization soon turns into violence, okay? That's what Governor Walz said. And yet if we look at Governor Walz's comments in relationship to ICE, the federal law enforcement, who's simply enforcing federal immigration law, he's called them the Gestapo.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks.
And he taunts them continually. And he refused to apologize for his University of Minnesota commencement speech, where he referred to the ICE as the Gestapo. So I could go on about Democrat comments about Republicans. They're the ones that have used incendiary rhetoric that I think, according to Governor Walz, evidently leads to violence. So Governor Walz, you need to look at, instead of pointing the finger at someone, you need to look at the four fingers pointing back at you. You're the one that needs to apologize. You're the one that needs to tone down your own rhetoric. With that, I hope we can get a prompt response from the Minnesota Democratic Caucus here in the state, condemning these incendiary and degrading comments by Governor Walz, President Biden, and many of the Democrats across our country and here in the state. Thank you. Please share this on social media, and let's make Minnesota great again.